Carrie with Canary Quilts, and I am here for the third month of the 11th Simple WhatNots Miniature Quilting Club. And this is the first week, and we're going to be doing, I should have been ready, we're going to be doing this little miniature quilt. It's only 20 inches by 20 inches. So today is where we're going to, today I'm going to show you how to put together the center star units. So, oh, and I'm going to show you how to cut all the fabric. There's a lot of cutting, and I show you how I organize it also, so that I can keep track when I'm doing all of this, because all these are different size blocks of the same color. So anyway, show you how to cut it. I'm going to show you how to put together one of these star units, and then the rest go together the same, and then I show you how to put together the whole unit. So it's not too hard, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun. I love miniature quilts. So let's get started making a star center. Okay, to get started on the Crossroads mini quilt, and this quilt is 20 by 20, so it's not very big at all. It looks much bigger by the picture, but it really isn't very big. There's going to be a lot of cutting of small fabrics, so I will do my best to show you the cutting, but it's just going to be a lot of cutting. So these are the fabrics we got this time. There's not that many in this one. I mean, there's a lot of fabric, just not as many different colors as in the last few. So they tell you what they've given you here, and then they've given you the background and the backing, which are the same two pieces here. Same type of fabric. So they're going to start with the cream color, which is this right here. And there's going to be a bunch of different size cuts in here. So I'm going to use these alphabetties, and for each cut I'm going to assign a letter. I use these in a lot of other projects. I'll put a link to them down below, but I can assign a letter to them, so when I come back to see what I need, I'll be like, oh, I need cut P, or I need cut K. So that's what I'm going to do with the creams. So I'm going to get started cutting. Like, there's 84 rectangles in the first cut, and 32 squares in the next, and 20 squares. So it's just a lot of cutting of the same fabric, so I'll just run through it real quickly. And then you can see how I will label these in the end. Okay, I wanted to show you real quick that I've got all my strips cut out, and on my pattern I have labeled which strip goes to which cut. And I've just grabbed random letters because it really doesn't matter. As long as I see T on my pattern, I know what to cut. All of these have one strip I need. This one has 6, so I'm going to cut multiples out of this one. And this is how much fabric I have left over in case I make a mistake. So let's get to cutting all of this out. Okay, let's start with T. I'll pick these up, get them out of the way, and I'm going to turn this. And when you pin them too, it helps to keep them in place. So take that off, put my pin in so it stays together, and then I need 4. This is folded, so I'm going to get 2 for each cut, and I need 4 of these. I'm going to set this aside with my extra fabric, and then I can put these here, put my T on, and know which cut this is by easily looking at my pattern. So let's go, and we will cut D the same way. And I'm going to go through and cut all of these exactly just like I did. Future Carrie here. These squares that I just cut need to be cut on the diagonal to make 2 triangles. So I didn't do that in the beginning, and as I got through the through this pattern a little farther, I figured out I had missed that. So Future Carrie's coming back to tell you, cut these squares into triangles. Okay, there's all my cream cuts, and I've marked them by letter so that they're easily available to me when I need them. I'll know which one is which by the letter. So that's what I had left. I have a little bit left in a strip, and this is what we have left totally in all of our fabric for the cream color. So next up is Cranberry cut. Okay, I've got it all ironed ready to go. So the first thing we're going to be doing is cutting our binding strips. And I have my binding strips labeled as O. So that's how I'm going to keep track of what is what. My binding strips are going to be O. Okay, here's all our cuts for this cranberry color. We have several cranberry colors. They give you the number so you can keep track. They also give you a picture of what the fabric looks like. So that's why I was like a little confused, because the pictures are kind of small. Okay, so that's how I've labeled that cranberry fabric, and that's how much we have left from that fabric. Not too much, so hopefully we don't make any mistakes. So let's move on to the 3 remaining cranberry prints. Here are my 3 remaining cranberry prints, and I need to cut 88 squares divided by the 3, so I need roughly 30 squares out of each one of these. That will give me my 88 squares. And I am going to label that X. And then we're going to need 8 squares cut in half diagonally. So when I get to that, I'll show you that. And I will label that a W. So let me get my 88 squares first. And then we'll work on the other ones. So I have already cut the selvages off this, and I've squared it up. So I'm ready to go with cutting on these. So there's my at least 88 squares that I need from the 3 remaining cranberry prints. So I need 8 more squares of a different size and then cut those diagonally to get 16. And I'm going to assume, I guess just from these prints, I'll cut 2 from each. I could use this too, I guess. Let's do that. 2 from each color. So I need 2 squares and I need to cut those diagonally. And this is going to be by W. Okay, there's 2 from that cranberry. So that's how I am doing those. And these are going to be my W. Sorry, I labeled these wrong. Whew. You probably knew that. There's X and here's W. So those are the remaining cranberry prints right here. Set these over there, show you how much fabric's left. Quite a bit of fabric is left from these. And then I used this strip and got a couple little strips here. So, onwards to the blue. So these are the fabrics we have left to cut, and it's interesting because they're calling these 2 blue fabrics. Those look green to me. And then they're calling this teal, which that does look teal to me. But anyway, next fabric we're going to cut is this, you know, blue fabric right there. And that is Fat 8, I think is what they're calling it. Chubby 16th. Sorry, that is a chubby 16th. So I need 3 different cuts out of this. So M, V, and S. I will get these marked. M, V, S. And we need, for our M, we need some 4 strips with rectangles cut out of them. That's not big enough. Okay, so that is my V right here. Those are the rectangles I need for V. And then I need just a little bit larger rectangles for M. So there's my M pieces from the so-called blue. And then there's going to be some cuts here at the end with all the leftover greens or blues, whatever you want to call them, that we'll need to use. So I'm going to save these off to the side. Next is this blue, which is green, but they're calling it blue. So let me cut off this selvage. Okay, just squared my fabric up. I need 2 different cuts, so I will use S this time. I'll use S and B. S, B. And I need a strip for each. So I'm starting with S. So this is my strip for S. And I need 4 squares. So there's S. And then I need 8 squares, so of a different size. So I'm going to just cut this one to that size and see how many I get. I don't know. I might get them. I need 8. Yeah, not, oh well. I'll just have to cut 2 more instead of cutting a whole strip. Okay, there is my B cuts. So not a lot from that one, but we'll need it for the end here. We got to cut some for the border, and I'll show you that when we get there. So there's my so-called blue, second blue cuts. And I'm going to set that aside for later. Now we've got our teal cut. Okay, there's my fabric. It's all squared up, ready to go. Selvage has been cut off. I need 2 cuts out of this. So what do we have left? Do we even have any letters left? Yes, we have R and Y. So let me get those marked. R and Y. So we're going to start with R. And we need to cut these into squares and then cut those diagonal to yield triangles. So I need to get a strip cut. That'll work better for this. And then you cut these diagonal. And we're going to need 12 squares and 24 triangles. Okay, there are my 24 triangles from the teal, which I have labeled R. Now we need to do Y, and we need squares of these, just squares. Okay, those are Y. We need 20 squares for our Y of the teal. So I've got my teal cuts, which are Y and R. Now, last thing we have to do between the yellow, green, blue, whatever you want to call it, and the teal is we need to cut 40 squares. So 40 divided by 3 would be basically 13 each. So let's cut 13 out of each one of these, and then I'll cut one more. Okay, there are my Z cuts, which I believe are for the border. And I don't have much left of these colors. That's what I have left, plus a few little scragglies over here that I'm not going to count. But anyway, these are my Z's. So we get those marked. And that is the end of my cutting. Woo! Let me mark that Z. So we're going to go ahead and start. I'm going to get cleaned up here and organized a little more, and I'm going to get out to start piecing the quilt center star units. So let's get started with piecing the quilt center star units, and I've done one so far so that I could see how it was done. So now I will go step through step and show you how to do it. So I'll put this right here. The first thing they want us to do is draw a diagonal on all the back of the cranberry squares. So I'm gonna get that done. Okay, so all my cranberry pieces now have diagonal lines on them. And then we need to do it to 2 of the cream squares. And I'll show you where these are going real quick. So the cranberries are in the flying geese right here. These 2 are right here on the ends of these green. And then this piece we need to put a diagonal in also. So the first thing we're going to do is put together the flying geese. So we want to take our rectangular cream color and put a cranberry on it with the diagonal going from the corner to the middle. And we'll do that on all 4 of these. And we're going to sew right on that diagonal line. And we will trim 1/4 of an inch away from our seam. And then we're going to iron, oops, got to turn this over. Right sides together, Carrie. Right sides together. And then we're going to iron towards the dark color here. So I'm going to go get these ironed on all of the lines I just drew. And I'll bring it back and show you the trim. Okay, so here's my 4 pieces with the seams in them. And I sewed right on that diagonal line. So now what I want to do is put it down and put my 1/4 inch mark on my ruler right on the seam I just sewed, and then I'm going to just cut that end off. So now I'll go over to the iron and I will iron it up like that. So I'm going to get all of these trimmed, and then I'm going to go get them ironed. Okay, so let's go get them ironed this way. next thing we want to do is just take those other 4, line it up where the diagonal, line up on the other side of the rectangle so the diagonal is crossing over where we just put the other piece on. And then we will do exactly the same thing on this side that we just did, where we're going to iron, or we're going to sew on that line. We're going to cut 1/4 inch away from our seam, and then we will iron towards the dark. So since I showed you how to do the first one, I'm going to finish these and then I'll bring them back and show you how to assemble that center star unit. Okay, we want to assemble our center star unit. I've got my flying geese done and I trimmed them and ironed them towards the dark. So we're going to set our flying geese on either side, or on all sides of the center cranberry square. And then we're going to take the 4 unmarked cream colors and put these in the corners, these squares. So what I'm going to do is what you're going to do is you're going to sew each row, each of the pieces in each row together. And you're going to do that with 1/4 inch, and then you're going to iron these rows towards the cream patches, these 2 rows, and then the middle row towards the cranberry patch. And then we'll come back and then we can put the 3 rows together. Okay, I got all 3 of my rows sewn together here. This middle row is sewn towards the middle patch, and these outside rows are sewn towards the outside patches. So there's our middle star. Now what we can do is we can just line up these seams we just sewed, and because they're in opposite directions, they will match up and nest each other. And then we'll sew that 1/4 inch, and I'm going to just do both of these. And then these get ironed towards the outside rows. So I'm going to go get these sewn together and I'm going to iron towards the outside rows like that. Okay, there's our center star unit. So the next thing we do is we need to do these here, not this corner right now, but these 2 strips. So you take your shorter blue-green strip and you take the cream colors that we've marked on the diagonal, and you're going to lay it from the top right corner down like that. So we will sew on that diagonal just like we did up here in the flying geese. We're going to sew on this diagonal, trim 1/4 inch, and iron towards the cream color. And then with the larger rectangle we're going to do the same, but we're going to come over here and put the diagonal from the upper left down like that. We trim, or we sew on the line, trim 1/4 inch, then iron towards the cream color. So that's the next thing we do here. Okay, here's our 2 pieces sewn, trimmed 1/4 inch, and ironed towards the cream color. So the first thing we want to do is put it over here onto this side, just like this, and we will pin it edge to edge, and we will get this sewn, and then we will iron it towards the green blue. Okay, we've got our green blue strip over here. Now we take this one and we're going to put it down here on this side and do the exact same thing, edge to edge, sew 1/4 inch, and iron it towards the green blue side. So I am going to get this pinned up, I'm going to get it sewn, and then I'll bring it right back here and show you what it looks like and show you how to do that. So there's our square, but we're not done yet because we got to take this green blue piece we got that we marked a diagonal on, and we're going to set it in this corner, and we will sew on this line, trim 1/4 inch, and iron towards this green-blue piece, and it'll be right next to that corner. So, line it up in the corner, sew on the line. There's my corner piece sewn on, and I'm going to trim all that material off at 1/4 of an inch. Now I'm going to iron it over, and we've got our block. So there you go. You completed one of the star units. We've got 2 done. They'll actually sit just like that. And we're going to get 2 more of these done, and then we're going to piece this center unit together. So I'll come back when I get the other 2 done. There we go. We got our 4 center star units done. And now what we're going to do is just sew the 2 rows together, and then we're going to sew the 2 rows together this way. So let's put them together, lining up these seams and the edges. Line up this seam. Get that edge lined up, and we'll sew it 1/4 of an inch, and we'll sew our rows in opposite directions. Or not sew, we will iron our rows in opposite directions. So get these seams lined up, get your edges lined up. Make sure I got it put together correctly. So we'll iron the bottom row to the left and the top row to the right. Now it's just a matter of putting these 2 together, nesting these seams, matching these seams right here. And then we will sew this together with 1/4 of an inch, and we will iron just to one side. We don't need to iron this seam open. Okay, I'm going to get this sewn, and then I'm going to iron it to one side, and I will be done with the center unit. There's our completed center unit. That turned out pretty cool. I like it. Even with the blue-green in the middle. No, I like the green. They call it blue. But anyway, there you go. So, that's this first week. That's what we get done. The next week, we're going to be doing border 1 and 2 and putting that on. And then there is a 3rd border, and complete the quilt is the final video. So, hit subscribe down below to stay tuned, and you'll get notified when the next video goes up, which will be in a couple of days. So, I'll see you then.